What's up, guys? Chinwe here, and welcome to episode 2 of the 30-day digital fashion challenge. Now, in my previous video, I talked about having to take on the challenge to design the digital version of my friend's fashion sketch. And in the previous video, which I'm going to link in the description, if you haven't checked it out, please check it out to have more context of what this video is going to be about or what this challenge is going to be about moving forward. I'm so excited for some reason, I don't even know why. Guys, I just want to let you guys know that half of the time, I don't even know why I took up this challenge. But one thing I know is I feel like this entire process has held me accountable and has really just helped me to put in the work and put in the effort, as opposed to not really having a direction to which this content is going to be going. So I feel like this challenge has helped me, kind of like put me on track to know exactly where and what value that I want to offer to you guys. And it is very simple. Having you guys follow me through my entire learning journey and my entire digital fashion journey while you also learn as well. So as I'm learning, you guys are also learning. How cool is that? Now, in this video, I am going to be navigating through the entire interface of CLO3D before I even start anything. Now, this is going to help me as well as also help you guys understand the first things you need to do while you are starting a digital fashion project. So the first thing is understand the software you're working with. CLO3D, I must say, is like the best, one of the best, if not the best, digital fashion software for fashion designers. Now, if you're a designer who is looking to design clothes digitally, yeah, CLO3D is the best. Yeah, for me. I mean, if you have any other options, let me know in the comments. But for like me and for someone who is like interested in fashion, interested in measurements, interested in patterns, if you're someone who really wants to play around with textures, avatars, sizing, you know, all of that good stuff, I think Clothes3D has all of the features for you. And as much as it has like so many tools, so many features, they're just like basic beginner stuff that you need to know. And that's what I'm going to be introducing to you in this video. I'm also still trying to figure out like beginner tools and everything in between, just so that I know exactly what to start with, right? There's so many tools, but as a beginner, there are basic tools that you need to be working with, right? So basically, you're going to be understanding Clo3D tools as a beginner. So you know, okay, these are the tools that I need to use. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get right into the video.
All right, so I'm basically going to be showing you guys the entire interface of the CLO3D software, like I said earlier. I'm gonna introduce the 2D and the 3D window to you guys first, just so that you guys get acquainted with these two spaces here. So this is the 2D window and this is the 3D window, okay? When you come to the bottom right of the screen, you would see three boxes. One has a line divided in between, one is for 3D and one is for 2D. So when you click on this line, this is basically the line that kind of like shows you the two screens at the same time simultaneously. It shows you like the 2 and 3D windows simultaneously. When you click on 3D, when you click on 3D, it shows you only the 3D window. When you click on 2D, it shows you only the 2D window, and you click back on the double screen, it shows you both windows simultaneously, all right? So now let's talk about the 2D tools, the tools on the right-hand side of the screen. So these are basically the sewing tools. Um, the 2D window is basically for making patterns and sewing, right? You can take in the patterns, you can import the patterns to the 2D window, and then you can also sew and, adjust the patterns in the 3D window, but I personally prefer to do them on this window. So these are the sewing tools that you can see to transform the pattern. So when you click, when I hover around this um, icons, I can also see the shortcuts, right? So I can press Z. I mean, I will be able to edit pattern. When I press C, I'll be able to edit curvature. When I press V, I'll be able to cover. So the amazing thing about Clo3D is the fact that you can actually use shortcuts for these tools instead of having to, look for them, right? If you memorize these shortcuts and you use and if you use the software regularly, you know what shortcut to use for which. right? So you can basically sew, you can basically, segment sew, you can basically free sew, check the sewing length, you can also steam the garment. But I would say that for a beginner level, you might want to just focus more on the first few tools on here, from here to here, and also these sewing tools. So you're going to be using these sewing tools a lot. You're also going to be using this pattern tools a lot. So I'd say memorize them at first, and also before you go into anything complicated. If you also check here, you would see an arrow sign that points down. This means that you can actually click on the icon and it will show you, the rest, right? It will show you the rest of the patterns or the icons that you might be missing, right? And I think there is also, if I'm not mistaken, okay. So this is for now. Let's talk about, we're concentrating on the right hand side of the interface right now before we go back to the left. So we're concentrating on everything that is on the 2D aspect. Now let's click on the object browser and see. So basically the object browser kind of like shows you every object or tool that you would most likely add to your garments. I'm talking about fabric, I'm talking patterns, I'm talking buttons, I'm talking buttonhole, right? I'm talking stitches, I'm talking puckering, ribbons, also to understand sizing and all of that. So if you're working on a garment and you want to add buttons, if you want to add any of these objects, all you need to do is click on it. Once you click on it, you now come to property editor. Okay, property editor kind of like shows you, I haven't chosen anything to work on right now, but once you click on any of these tools, your property editor will show you, okay, will show you the properties of that particular garment. Okay, so if you're working on buttons, right, for example, you click on buttons, you can see that the property editor of the buttons have appeared on here. You can see the information, you can see the shade, you can see the specification, you can see the width, you can see the thickness, you can see the weight of the buttons. You can see the color, the opacity, the roughness, you kind of like have the liberty to set these tools to your preference. That's how amazing it is, okay? Same thing applies to fabric as well. You click on the fabric. If there are more than one fabric pieces, if there are more than one fabric textures, it will also show you the properties of these fabrics, these textures. Um, it's amazing, you guys. Like, it really is amazing. If you're clicking on, if you want to work on the stitch, all you need to do is click on the stitch and you would see that the property editor of that stitch will appear here. Okay, so this is pretty much what you need to know on this side of the interface. Now let's close, right, and come over to the 3D window. Okay, so we are going to be, I've addressed this bottom tool, I'll address the right hand toolbar, I'm addressing the left hand toolbar before we go over to the top toolbar. Okay, so now this is a 3D window, as I already highlighted before. And basically here, I want you to focus more on what I'm going to be showing you right now, because I'm also, you know, trying to get a hang of the entire thing. I'm also trying to get a hang of the entire software, so I'm not really doing too much. But basically, this is the simulate button. I'm going to be showing you guys the shortcuts pretty soon. Now, this is the simulate button. You can also simulate with the space bar. So I told you that when you hover around these icons, you see the shortcuts, that you can use on your keyboard instead of, going ahead to just look for all of them, right? So these are the icons that you might want to use for your 3D window. But first off, before we continue, let's go to the library, right? So the library kind of like shows you the garments. So when you see, that's the first option on your library. So when you come here, this file kind of like contains a few pattern blocks, or a few avatar blocks, let's see if there are a few shirt patterns. So you can see that there are a few shirts, there are a few cuffs, there are a few sleeves, there are a few long sleeves, short sleeves, shirts, there are a few colors for women, all right? Also for men as well. So when you click on there, you can see the same thing for men. Um, you can also see a shirt block that you can click on. You can double click on it. So once you want to pick a shirt, so instead of you having to, work on or start a pattern afresh from the beginning, you already have your shirt patterns being imported from this library, which I love so much, right? So when you go on avatar, so I have been able to import this pattern now. When you go on avatar, you have a couple of avatar avatar specifications that you can use, right? You can also, when you hover around, you can see different poses of the avatars right here, depending on what you want to use and what you want to use them for. So let's say I want to import Naomi. I double click on Naomi. Yeah, so I open size and post from garment file. So I can see that Naomi now has my pattern on it. So I can now start creating and manipulating my pattern to suit my design on this avatar. Okay, so now you also have the hanger library depending on the hangers that you want to use. I have never used that. Fabric, yes, I have used fabric. There are a ton of different fabrics that can match the design that you want to create. There is velvet, there is silk. Once you hover around the avatar, you see the specification, the different specification of each fabric that you might want to use. Um, yeah, they're pretty much it's just very self-explanatory, just very interesting to play around with. So just play around with different fabrics, that might match the design that you want to create. So if you're looking at trimmings, cords, buttons, this is also where you'd find them. Um, if you're looking at materials, this is also where you're going to find them, right? So for history kind of like shows you all the projects that you've been working on. So if you want to open up past projects, is here on history. So when you want to open, you have to click on open, and it kind of like takes you to the desktop of the saved file, right? So if you have saved your file on desktop, this is where you would find it as well. um yeah, I hardly use modular libraries, so I'm yet to explore that as well. Now we are done with the left hand side of the screen of the interface, um talking about the library history, modular library, but I'll say that you might want to explore library and history more, because these are the areas that you might will most likely be using a as a beginner. Okay, so now let's just talk about these icons real quick. So I haven't used all of them, but for the garment display, I would say that it kind of like shows you how the garments are going to display on the avatar. If you want to show that they're all on, so it means that all of these specifications are on this pattern right now, are showing on this pattern. You can see that we can see the garments, we can see the pattern, we can see the seam lines, you can see the internal lines, you can see the base lines. We can literally see every single thing. I think you can turn them off. Anyone that you don't want to see, you can turn them off and they will literally turn off. So yeah, this is the trim display. If you want to turn off the buttons, if you want to turn off the piping, if you want to show the puckering, if you want to show the trims. Yeah, for the avatar display, shows you display. So you can literally hide the displays. If I want to click, if I want to see the show the arrangement points, this kind of like helps you arrange the patterns on the actual body part of the avatar, right? So if you want, let's say, the trouser to be at the lowest point or high waisted, it kind of like helps you to navigate the body parts of the avatar and arrange your patterns based off of those lines. If you want to show bonding, if you want to show the avatar joints, if you want to show the avatar measurements, Yeah, so this is basically for the avatar. Okay, now this also shows you for the garments, this shows you for the maps, this shows you the rendering style that you want, and this shows the environment display. So all of this will be explored during the course of our design process. Okay, now now let's talk about the bar at the top, right? You have file edits, 3D, 2D materials, avatar, um, render, connects, settings, help. So this kind of like shows you if you want to import in, if you want to start a new project, if you want to import a new garment, if you want to open a file that you have already saved, or a trim or avatar, if you want to add a project, if you want to save, if you want to import, all of that. So these are the shortcuts, the edit shortcuts for undo, redo, delete, copy, basically shortcuts. These are the shortcuts for your 3D. I already showed you guys that as well. 2D, if you want to like create, edit, trace, lock on your 2D window. These are the materials that you might be using, that you might also be needing in terms of like button zipper piping, binding, top stitch, puckering and everything. I saw that I mentioned it here at some point as well. This uh, involves the avatar, everything you need to know about the avatar, editing, attaching. This has to do with the fabric. If you want to change the texture on the 2D or 3D window, production, render, etc. Okay, so here, this is your user setting bar. When you click on your user settings, this kind of like helps you, set the entire process. Just making the entire process personalized to your preference, how you would preferably navigate the software. For graphic options, I really don't haven't changed anything on here, to be very honest with you, because most of the automatic settings, the default settings that come with the software, I mean, I already use them. I don't have any problem with them. So just in case you want to change your pan navigation, your zoom navigation, if you want to change your pan, I usually use the middle mouse button, and that's okay for me. If you want to change the zoom, if you want to the zoom button, if you want to increase, if you want to change the rotate button, pop-up menu, yeah, basically. So these are the shortcuts, right? These are the shortcuts for file, for edits, for 2D, for 3D, for avatar, for settings. Yeah, basically these are the shortcut keys. Um, yeah. So this shows you everything that you need to know about it. So this is the user interface. This is the user interface as well. If you want to change the measurement from inches to millimeter or centimeter based off of what you're working on. Payment unit is in USD. You might want to change it to euros. That's when you're buying your subscription for the month. Yeah, pretty much. This kind of like helps you set according to your preference. According to the 2D, 3D window, other settings, default, CLO3D sets, CLO3D APIs. But personally, I have been able to navigate through the graphic options, the view controls, shortcuts, and user interface. And I have not really changed anything. So you might not really need to make changes yet. Most of the settings that are already on the software when you start will most likely be good for you to start using. So I don't think that's really a problem, right? Okay, guys, so in terms of simulation, this is when you're now done with your entire design and you would want to simulate, animate. I will also let you guys know how to use that as time goes by, but this is basically what you need to know as a beginner on the CLO3D interface. Yeah, pretty much I understand that while we're designing, you guys will get a more, have a more understanding of what this entire software is about. Okay?
All right, guys, I think I pretty much covered like the entire interface for beginners, like some of the tools that you need to know. Okay, so in episode 3, we will dive straight into the pattern making process for this dress. I'm nervous, I'm elated, there's just so many feelings because I have never done this before, but that's exactly why it's a challenge, right? So I'm hoping that during the pattern making process, you guys will understand better how to apply the tools, how to navigate the entire software, how to use the shortcuts, and everything that I mentioned in this video. All right. Please leave a comment if you're using CLO3D and you're trying to also navigate it as well. Let's share our experiences in the comments, and I will see you in episode 3. Bye, guys. Tick, tick, tock. As the passing water never flow backwards. Tick tock. As they gotta work.